Please, Ephraim.
Thank you, Yair. I'm somewhat handicapped in speaking now to you. First of all, this is rather late in the agenda, and quite a few of the things I'm going to say you've heard before, I think from different people, so that will perhaps be different. The second and the more important thing is that this is the first after lunch talk, and you know what it means. I'm also reminded of the Landau law, not Emily Landau, but Lev Landau, the famous mathematician physicist, who said that the serial number of a lecture in a conference multiplied by the number of people in the audience is a constant. Think about it. Several years ago, this institute published my memorandum, Rethinking the Non-Proliferation Regime, in which I put forward several ideas for resolving a bad situation. The main points in my memorandum concerned the modification, either via amendments or by agreeing on a new text of the NPT, and the strengthening of the verification mechanism. However, the situation, to my mind, has taken a turn for the worse since then. The main characteristics of the present bad situation were described yesterday and today by several speakers. The main issue now stands before us. Is continuing with the NPT tenable? And if not, what can and should be done to maintain a non-proliferation regime that can endure and stop the further proliferation of WMD in general and nuclear proliferation in particular? Let me first put forward 10 statements that reflect my thinking on the situation. And I must say that these statements are somewhat pessimistic. I hope not altogether. 1. In the foreseeable future, there will be no universal nuclear disarmament, irrespective of international demands and the requirements of the NPT, since not all the new nuclear weapon states will let go of their weapons in case someone cheats, be it one of them, be it another state, or a non-state organization. Regional arrangements could be possible if regional states could trust each other and regional peaceful conditions are achieved. 2. Many states see the NPT membership as an end to itself, not as a means to an end. 3. Any state that is firm in its desire to acquire nuclear weapons can and will accomplish this irrespective of its international obligations. 4. The international verification mechanisms are not strong enough to detect all cases of non-compliance with international treaty obligations. Only intelligence organizations can do this, but their success is not always assured, and the world will not always act on this information. 5. Commercial interests have a good chance of overcoming legal obligations and supply the proliferators with the necessary equipment, materials, and know-how for their programs. Governments, at times, are shy of taking action against these interests. 6. There is no enforcement mechanism that can, on its own, stop proliferators, and the international will is not strong enough to do that. 7. Although technically possible, the NPT will never be amended. 8. A fissile materials cut-off treaty, the FMCT, although sensible, is not in the cards and is not verifiable. 9. It is a sad fact that dealing with proliferators does not occupy the highest priority among the main international actors, and the level of hesitancy is almost unbelievable. 10. Trying to compel the non-NPT states to join it instead of trying to reach an understanding with them is a grave mistake. Past experience has shown that the following methods manage to stop proliferation: political convictions and persuasions, military actions, the Proliferation Security Initiative, the PSI. In addition, the NSG also did much good. However, strangely enough, the requirement of being party to the NPT in order to become a member of the NSG is counterproductive. The real question is, what do we want from a non-proliferation regime, and how do we achieve this? We want states to desist from developing WMD. We want those who have WMD to desist from using them. We want states that have them to at least reduce their stockpiles considerably. We want states to be able to utilize nuclear energy for peaceful purposes without risk of proliferation. Can this be accomplished within the framework of the NPT? Much of it will depend on the future of the Iran issue. If Iran is stopped and its extensive nuclear weapons program dismantled, there is a glimmer of hope for the NPT. If not, the NPT could well become an obsolete piece of history, gone the same way as so many treaties have gone before it. It should be remembered that there are 4 states that are not parties to the NPT and will probably not be cajoled into joining it. It is possible to withdraw from the NPT, and if Iran does so, many others will. What can be done? If not to completely remedy the situation, then at least to ameliorate it. I would like to suggest the following activities. 1. Draft and ratify a general memorandum of understanding of no first use, including the nuclear weapon states and the 4 non-NPT states. 2. Accept the 4 non-NPT states into the NSG on the condition that they accept its terms, less the requirement of joining the NPT or its derivatives. 3. Launch an economically viable, regulated, internationalized fuel cycle, both front and back end. 4. Institute a harsh automatic political and economical sanction system against proliferators, both countries and vendor countries. 5. Institute the additional protocol as a mandatory obligation of the parties to the NPT and start discussions on an augmented verification system based on the lessons learned from the application of the additional protocol. And 6, abolish the small quantities protocol. Are these suggestions feasible? It is quite uncertain that they are. The problem is that without them, continuing with the present regime and the sorry state it is in, the probability of deterioration is high. If we take the states of affairs with past proliferators such as Iraq, Pakistan, North Korea, Iran, Libya, and Syria, 4 of which are still members of the NPT, we can observe that not only were these not hindered by the requirements of the international non-proliferation regime, but the international community as a whole did little to sway them towards compliance with their obligations. In addition, there is no unanimity among the major state actors on the need to act forcefully against proliferators, which is not conducive to united action. Therefore, direct action is probably the only thing, given the absence of external factors that could persuade the country to give up its military nuclear ambitions. Let me turn briefly to an offshoot of the NPT, namely the CTBT. First, I have to state that I am in favor of this treaty, which has many things to recommend it to all nations. However, the fact is that it will be very difficult to ratify and will not hinder anyone who wants to make a statement by exploding a nuclear device from doing so. Therefore, the on-site inspection mechanism will probably never be used, since the fact of a test will, in most cases, be proudly admitted, and today is such a case. On the other hand, the centralized monitoring system is and will always remain a useful tool for the international community. To recapitulate, in the near future, what will determine the fate of the NPT in particular, and the non-proliferation regime in general, will be the way the Iran affair will turn out. If Iran will be persuaded to give up its military nuclear ambitions, the regime could get a life extension. And if Iran will succeed in producing a nuclear explosive device, or at least producing a substantial amount of military and sub-military fissile materials, or even continue successfully and indefinitely with its time-buying tactics, this regime is doomed, even if this will never be declared to be so. If the review conferences will go on in the same vein as before, with very little practical achievements, but with impractical and unachievable resolutions, they will eventually fizzle out. If they start taking things seriously and refrain from the habit of requiring consensus, which needs the acquiescence of transgressors, they could start becoming useful. Sadly, it is doubtful that they will do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ephraim.